The field doesn't answer words. It answers resonance. I'll prove it. And you'll feel your chest unlock while you watch. You've spoken the language of effort for years. Sentences stacked like ladders, promises piled like bricks. Yet the door never truly opened. Tonight, a different grammar arrives. Not nouns and verbs, but tone and truth. Harmonics in the heart that reality recognizes instantly. There is a current beneath conversation, a frequency beneath thought. Quiet, steady, undeniable. When it rises, outcomes stop behaving like strangers and start behaving like relatives. Not because you argued harder, but because your signal matched what was already yours. Most people chase outcomes like shadows, reaching, grabbing, insisting. But shadows belong to light, and light belongs to source. The moment your inner tone turns true, clean, coherent, unwavering, the world doesn't grant permission. It simply aligns, as if it had been waiting just out of sight. Words can decorate a room. Resonance changes the architecture. Words explain. Resonance summons. You've seen this in small ways. The day clarity arrived and calls returned. The hour you felt certain and doors swung with soft hinges. That wasn't luck. It was language, spoken in amplitude and phase instead of letters. There is a seam between pretending and presence. A single velvet line where effort dissolves and certainty hums. Cross that seam and requests become recognition. Not please, but of course. Not someday, but this fits. Doubt will try its old theater, costumes of delay, lines about timing, a chorus of what-ifs whispering from the wings. Let the play finish. When the curtain falls, only frequency remains, quiet, centered, immaculate. From there, life stops arriving as noise and begins arriving as music. You are not here to memorize slogans. You are here to stabilize a tone, unborrowed, unforced, unmistakably yours. When it is steady, reality hears you even in silence. When it is scattered, reality misses you even when you shout. So let this be the pivot. Outcomes are not persuaded by volume. They are conducted by coherence. The field isn't keeping score of promises. It's listening for a signature, and the moment that signature is pure, clean line, true note, steady light, paths appear that maps never mentioned. Call this faith, call it physics, call it the quiet craft of becoming. Names don't matter when the door opens. What matters is the hum beneath your story. Subtle, sovereign, seamless. That is the language creation understands. That is the signal that turns distance into nearness and theory into life. You heard the line and something flickered, like a light behind the ribs, like a room you forgot you owned. That flicker is not decoration. It's the carrier wave. Words ride on it, meaning condenses around it, and the world tilts, barely, beautifully, toward you. There's a difference between wanting and wiring. Wanting tugs from the surface. Wiring hums from the core. Wanting says, one day, wiring whispers. Already, the field hears the whisper first. Because whispers come from closer in. Every life carries a private timbre, subtle as a fingerprint, exact as a star chart. When that timbre goes sharp with fear or flat with doubt, events arrive out of tune. But when it rings true, clean, rounded, steady, people soften, paths smooth, and timing behaves like a friend who shows up exactly when needed. You've seen evidence, the message that arrived the moment you stopped chasing it. The meeting that felt written before it happened. The way clarity collapses distance like a hallway, folding into a single door. These weren't accidents. They were acknowledgments. Little signatures from reality saying, I recognize you. Here's the quiet shock. Outcomes don't fall from the sky. They grow from the signal you sustain. Not louder, truer, not faster, clearer. The field is exquisitely literal. It mirrors tone, not talk. Tell a perfect story with a shaky signal and the mirror shows the shake. Hold a simple truth with a steady signal, and the mirror delivers symmetry. Notice how certainty behaves in the body. Shoulders loosen, jaw unhooks, vision widens at the edges. That's not theatrics, that's geometry settling. Precision returns. The mind stops sprinting. Space opens between thoughts like windows in an old house, and fresh air moves through. Some call this alignment. Others call it coherence. Whatever the name, the effect is the same. The noise recedes, the note remains. From that note, choices organize themselves, silently, sensibly, until what once felt far becomes near enough to touch. And if doubt knocks, it will. Let it pass like weather across a mountain that doesn't move. Mountains don't debate the wind, they keep their contour. Keep yours. Let the field do what it's designed to do. Translate a stable inner music into visible arrangement. This is the threshold few notice because it doesn't shout, it glows. It's the difference between performing certainty and carrying it. The first exhausts, the second attracts. Stay with the second quietly, continuously, and watch how reality leans in to listen. There is a hush that arrives before transformation. A tempered quiet in which events begin to organize around a truth you haven't spoken yet already are. In that hush, the mirror of life shifts angle. And what once returned delay now returns recognition. Resonance is not drama, it's design. It appears as clean lines where there used to be clutter, as right people arriving without rehearsal, as timing that stops missing you by inches and starts meeting you on the mark. Nothing magical occurs, only fidelity. The outer world taking the exact shape of your inner signature. The decoy timeline loses color first. Invitations that once felt urgent turn faint, old appetites flatten, conversations you used to chase begin to echo without landing. This is not failure, it is filtration. The field removing what cannot carry your new tone. Certainty, when real, is quiet. It doesn't bargain, parade, or plead. It sits measured, luminous, untroubled, and the room rearranges itself. People sense it without knowing why. Responses soften, resistance thins, pathways disclose their hinges. Reality prefers clarity. It always has. Language follows frequency. Say the right sentence with the wrong signal and doors stay ornamental. Hold a simple sentence with a true signal and handles appear where there weren't any. This is why some explanations convince no one while a single calm line can tilt an entire conversation. Coherence is the persuader. Notice the geometry of truth. Edges align, decisions stop wobbling, and options separate into two undeniable piles. Belongs and doesn't. The mind calls that certainty, the field calls it address. Coordinates locked, delivery in motion. Doubt may still audition, old lines, familiar costumes. Let it finish its monologue. When the stage lights dim, your signal remains unfrayed, unhurried, unmistakable. The field is not grading your feelings. It is reading your frequency. And your frequency, when settled, speaks more clearly than 1,000 convincing speeches. This is the quiet crossing, not a chase, not a contest. An accord, a private treaty between your inner measure and the order of things. From here, outcomes no longer arrive as visitors to be impressed, but as relatives finding home. Because the house finally matches the name on the door. There is a point, quiet, precise, where reality stops resisting and starts listening. Not because you argued harder, but because the note within you stopped wavering. A steady note turns the world into a tuning fork. Rooms adjust, voices soften, and opportunities adopt your rhythm as if they had been practicing off stage. Old cycles don't collapse with thunder, they dim. Color washing out of habits that once felt urgent. Invitations lose their shine, distractions lose their appetite, and the echo of yesterday stops convincing. This is not loss, it is refinement. The field keeps what matches and releases what cannot. Clarity has a temperature cool, clean, unmistakable. When it arrives, indecision unknots itself without a fight. Paths separate into two elegant stacks, belongs and doesn't. No drama, no debate. Just lines straightening as if gravity remembered its job. You'll recognize the shift by its mercy. Effort no longer feels like dragging a net through dry sand. Conversations land without strain. Time behaves like a companion, instead of a corridor you sprint down. Nothing extra is needed, only the tone you already carry, held without apology. There is a dignity to true alignment. Unshowy, unafraid. It does not audition. It does not plead. It sits measured, luminous, and the scene edits itself. People respond to what is settled in you, even when they cannot name it. The most persuasive sentence is a calm frequency. The decoy timeline will still wave, familiar promises, recycled urgency, a mirage of almost. Let it pass with the weather. Weather changes. Mountains don't. Remain mountain, contour intact, horizon trusted, signal clean. The field reads contour more than commentary. Precision replaces pressure. Decisions become single clicks instead of heavy levers. The mind stops scattering like light through broken glass and gathers. Focused, whole, like a beam that knows where to land. From that focus, events assemble with the quiet competence of a craftsman. This is not about spectacle, it is about symmetry. Inner measure meeting outer order without argument. When the measure is true, doors don't open, they simply aren't closed. What belonged to you arrives on accurate timing, not as a surprise, but as recognition, of course, if echoes of doubt appear. Old lines wearing new costumes, let them finish their scene. The curtain falls, the signal remains. Outcomes attend to what is consistent, and consistency is the softest kind of strength. No strain, no rush, just a steady hum that reality trusts. Call it resonance, coherence, or the quiet craft of being exact with yourself. Names are decoration. What matters is the architecture settling. Edges aligned, corners true, load, bearing faith inside your words. From here, timelines don't stampede, they lean. And when they lean, you do not chase. You receive, whole, awake, and unmistakably tuned. There is a moment when the body answers before the mind approves. Subtle warmth spreading behind the sternum, breath loosening like a knot finally remembered. That is not theatrics, that is evidence. Not the loud kind that begs to be seen, but the quiet kind that reality respects. Outcomes don't arrive because you performed certainty. They arrive because certainty settled. When your tone stops reaching and starts being, everything that was wobbling in the distance finds its coordinates. Conversations land. Invitations clarify. The noise that used to bait you loses its flavor. True signals don't need slogans. They travel clean. No friction, no apology. And the world organizes around them with almost embarrassing efficiency. Doors you once argued with reveal they were never locked. They were listening for the correct key, your unborrowed frequency. Notice how the scene edits itself when your inner measure is exact. The unnecessary exits. The precise remains. People who match your cadence stay without effort. Those who don't drift without blame. This is not cruelty. It is order returning. Edges aligning to what you actually are. Doubt will still stage its quiet theater. What ifs, old stories rehearsed under dim lights. Let them finish, the curtain falls. What endures is the steady undertone. A hum that neither advertises nor hides. In that undertone, timing loses its tricks and becomes straightforward. What belongs, arrives. There is a confidence that doesn't raise its voice. It carries a calm inevitability, the sense that what fits cannot miss. Plans shift, yet purpose doesn't wobble. Paths reroute, yet destination refuses to move. That steadiness is the proof. Not in numbers or noise, but in the way life stops resisting and begins to participate. Language follows this shift. Fewer words, greater weight. Simple lines that used to collapse now stand upright because the structure beneath them is real. You don't persuade the room recognizes you. That recognition is the clearest confirmation you'll ever receive. Call this resonance, coherence, alignment. Names are ornaments on the same tree. What matters is the felt accuracy, the click of rightness, the ease that doesn't ask permission, the soft certainty that turns almost into already. No fireworks, no ceremony. Just the mirror adjusting to a face that finally stopped pretending. And in that plain, luminous honesty without stunt or spectacle, the field does what it always wanted to do, match you. Not the mask, not the performance. You. There's a kind of silence that isn't empty. It's arranged. In that silence, life acquires a soft precision. Familiar scenes feel newly contoured. Ordinary hours carry an aftertaste of meaning, and the air itself seems to lean toward you. Nothing dramatic announces it, yet everything quietly agrees. The gateway never argues for attention. It appears the way dawn appears, increment by increment, until you realize the room is bright and you didn't see the light arrive. Coincidences cluster not as tricks, but as choreography. Names surface at the exact moment they're needed. The right line finds your mouth without rehearsal. The choreography is subtle, but the accuracy is unmistakable. Signs are not trophies, they are traffic. They don't exist to be collected or posted. They exist to move you without pushing. When the inner measure is true, signs stop behaving like riddles and start behaving like green lights. Unremarkable, continuous, effortless. What once required effort begins to respond to tone instead of toil. The call returns without chasing. The door opens without knocking. The timing is precise, without feeling forced. This is the atmosphere of alignment. Not loud, not flashy, just correct. Old patterns lose their adhesive. Conversations that thrived on your uncertainty fall flat. Rooms that fed on yourself, doubt forget your name. This is not rejection. It is filtration. What cannot carry your new clarity simply slides off the glass. There is a softness to real certainty, quiet warmth around the ribs, thoughts landing in single steps instead of stampedes. The mind's weather still changes, but the climate has stabilized. Storms visit. They don't define. The horizon stays where it belongs. Language refines itself. Fewer claims, truer claims. The surplus drops away and what remains acquires weight. Even silence starts speaking in complete sentences. People feel it before they understand it, and they adjust without being asked. The gateway does not require announcement. It requires recognition, and recognition when clean is enough. From that clean recognition, the field does its native work. Organizing, aligning, delivering with a composure that looks like grace and behaves like law. You are not pulling strings anymore. You are resonating with the loom. Delay has a voice, polite, persuasive, endlessly reasonable. It says later. It says almost. It says after one more assurance. But delay is not time. It's tone. It's the signal of not yet disguised as planning. When that signal fades, calendars stop being cages and become corridors. You move because nearness has replaced negotiation. There's a quiet click when reality stops requiring proofs you can't afford to keep paying. The cost of over-explaining, the tax of second-guessing, the toll of rehearsing. What if all of it dissolves into a simpler arithmetic? Either it belongs to your measure or it doesn't. Things that belong don't need parade music. They fit like a key that never scratches the lock. You'll know delay logic is ending when the mind quits bargaining with clarity. Options still exist, but they stop impersonating destiny. The counterfeit urgency of the almost right loses perfume. The genuine arrives without fragrance and somehow fills the room. It doesn't shout, it settles. And because it settles, you do too. Old momentum tries to reassemble, habits dressing up as responsible, doubts in the uniform of realism. Let them pass. Realism is not pessimism, it's precision. Precision knows what carries your frequency and what bends it out of shape. In precision, pressure is replaced by proportion. Actions match essence, words match weight, presence matches purpose. Notice how conversations change when delay retires. Fewer disclaimers, cleaner lines. If yields to when, and even when begins to sound like now in motion. People who once required you to prove yourself start responding to what is unmistakably present. Recognition arrives first. Agreement follows. This is not performance. It's geometry finding its true angles. There is mercy in this stage. Soft around the ribs, generous in the gaze. You do not rush. You do not stall. You keep the tempo of truth. The field answers tempo. Too fast and signals smear. Too slow and signals fade. Held just right, the note carries, unbroken, unforced, across every room you enter. And here is the quiet revelation, what you called. Waiting for the right time was often time waiting for the right tone. When the tone is right, hours behave, doors behave, even obstacles behave, taking their precise place in a pattern that favors you without needing to be loud about it. No declarations are required, only the steady hum of what you actually are. From that hum, delay loses its vocabulary, and your life resumes its native language, belonging on accurate timing. There is a difference between asking and being audible. Requests live in sentences, identity lives in signal. When identity is clear, life stops treating you like a stranger. It recognizes you at the doorway and waves you through. Not because you insisted, but because your frequency matched the list. Every outcome carries its own atmosphere, its scent of certainty, its texture of trust. When you wear a different atmosphere, you stand inches from what's yours and it doesn't notice. Shift the atmosphere, and without raising your voice, the room turns. Eyes soften, paths disclose. The field is not sentimental, it is exquisitely specific. You have felt this specificity before. Moments when the world handled you with unusual accuracy. Emails arriving at the exact breath. Conversations curving toward the line you hadn't yet spoken. Doors you never touched sliding open on intuition alone. That wasn't luck. It was profile match. Your inner broadcast and the event's signature finally overlapped. Counterfeits lose power here. Performance can copy posture, pace, even word choice. But it cannot counterfeit weight. True weight is the residue of alignment. Quiet mass, soft gravity, a center that doesn't wobble. People sense it before they understand it. Resistance tires quickly in its presence. Old narratives will try one more costume. Nostalgia, the warm echo of what used to fit. But echoes don't hold shape. They borrow it. When you listen deeper than memory, you notice the fit has loosened. The sleeve too wide, the collar too tight. Not wrong, just formally right. Thank it, and let tailor. Less garments fall. Language refines yet again. Less embroidery. More essence. A single sentence, calmly carried, outweighs 100 urgent explanations. You're not persuading. You are presenting evidence. The felt symmetry of who you are and what you're meeting. Symmetry convinces without debate. Notice the architecture of days when identity is steady. Edges are clean, choices click, and time feels obedient, rather than brittle. Interruptions stop derailing. They reroute with a grace that almost looks choreographed. The river is still the river. Even around stones, it finds the sea. If doubt hums at the margins, let it hum. Choirs don't collapse when one voice wavers, the chord holds. Your chord is holding now. Tonic, stable, unmistakable. From this note, the field performs its simple miracle. It stops interpreting your words and starts reading your weight. Call it coherence, call it truth, in tone. Names are lanterns, not the light. What matters is that the light is steady, and where light is steady, shadows behave. Outcomes stop playing hide, and seek and stand still long enough to be received. No spectacle is required, only the quiet gravity of identity. When that gravity is present, reality does the polite thing it always wanted to do. It yields, without bite, without fuss, with the soft authority of something that was yours becoming visible at last. Confirmation rarely arrives with trumpets. It arrives as precision. A name you hadn't remembered in years surfaces at the exact breath it matters. A path that looked sealed develops a seam of light. An obstacle that felt structural turns out to be scenery, painted, not load-bearing. Nothing breaks the laws of the world. The world simply honors the law of your signal. Response has a texture. Fine, grained, quiet, undeniable. It doesn't hustle. It doesn't perform. It arranges. Messages land when they mean to. Not a minute early, not a minute late. The clustering of impossible timing stops feeling spooky and starts feeling courteous, as if reality had been saving your seat. This is not spectacle. It's symmetry. The outer pattern takes the outline of your inner measure. Where you stand settled, events stand near. Where you stand scattered, events disperse like starlings. The field is not judging, it's reflecting. Mirrors don't punish faces, they repeat them. Old noise still tries its chorus. Predictable refrains about limits and delays. But repetition isn't authority, it's habit. And habit loses volume beside accuracy. Accuracy is soft and heavy at once. Like a truth that no longer asks permission to be true. You can feel the difference in the cadence of your day. The hours stop grinding and start gliding. Conversations that once required armor require only clarity. Doors don't argue. They either belong to your map or they don't. Where they belong, they place the handle in your hand without ceremony. Some will call it luck, others will call it alignment. Names are lanterns, not the light. What matters is the felt click, the sense that what fits has taken its place, and what never did has wandered off without a quarrel. Even memory updates, former detours revealing themselves as precise detours, routes that spared you a toll you didn't need to pay. If echoes of the old script return, they return thinner, like voices speaking through a wall that's no longer load. Bearing, let them drift. The new geometry holds. What is meant for your measure does not compete, it converges. What is not meant doesn't threaten, it recedes. This is the reply you were promised at the beginning. Not in volume, but in veracity. Not fireworks, but fidelity. A quiet covenant between your steady tone and the order of things. And once that covenant feels signed, the world behaves accordingly, not dazzled, not reluctant, simply correct. The field doesn't answer words. It answers resonance. And right now, your resonance is clear. You can feel it in the chest. Quiet warmth where noise used to live. A steadying where doubt once hurried. This is not performance. This is recognition. The mirror moved because you did not flinch. The timeline leaned because you stopped bargaining with almost. What belongs to your measure is finding you with calm precision, as if it always knew the way. Carry this clarity like daylight inside the ribs. Let the old chorus fade into the distance without debate. Today is not about louder. It is about truer, not about proving. About being undeniable without raising your voice. When identity holds, reality answers with accuracy. Invitations fit. Doors behave. Time becomes courteous. And the path ahead feels less like a hunt and more like a homecoming. If this message reached you, it is because your signal called it in. Keep your tone honest. Keep your presence gentle and exact. The world is already adjusting its furniture around the shape of who you truly are. No spectacle required, just the quiet authority of alignment, the soft gravity of a self that finally stopped asking permission to exist. Now a simple request from the heart. If you felt that click of rightness, if the chest loosened and the noise receded. Stay with me on this journey. Subscribe so we do not lose each other in the scroll. Like this video so the signal travels farther. Share it with someone who keeps standing at the door they can't see is already open, and tell me, in the comments, with your own voice of certainty, I am aligned with my highest timeline. May your days meet you with symmetry. May your steps be light and exact. And when the world listens for your signature, may it hear one clear note, calm, luminous, unmistakably yours. The field has heard you. The door is open. Walk your life.